In the bustling heart of Manhattan, where dreams were as plentiful as yellow cabs and disappointments were as frequent as jaywalkers, lived a young man named William Beckett. His story, or rather his stories, are what we're here to talk about today. You see, William had a problem. Actually, he had hundreds of them, 267 to be exact, all neatly documented in a worn leather journal. Every day, each weekday specifically, William would chronicle his failures. Those missed opportunities, awkward encounters, the times he felt insignificant or inept. At the end of each week, he'd tally them up. Monday was brutal, usually 45 to 50 failures. Tuesday wasn't much better, 38 this last time. Wednesday could be a good day, averaging 29. Then Thursday would come in hot with 42. And Friday, well, it was usually a tie with Thursday. And every Sunday night, after meticulously recording the weekly total, William would stare at the number, shake his head, and sigh. Another miserable week. This pattern had become the soundtrack of his life, a sad piano melody playing on repeat. But why? This is where our story begins, or rather, its continuation begins. William had a string of bad luck, unfortunate coincidences, embarrassing moments, and a heavy dose of self-doubt. All these things combined had led him to this point, feeling defeated and demoralized. But if you ask me, he brought it upon himself. Not literally, of course, but figuratively. You see, William had created a prison, not one of steel bars and cold concrete, but of his own thoughts. As a young lad, he believed in himself. He was a go-getter, someone who could make things happen. But as life dealt him its twists and turns, he started buying into the narrative that he was unlucky, incompetent, just not cut out for the big city. Somewhere along the way, he stopped believing in himself. Instead, he embraced the role of the victim, the perpetual loser, the king of scroops. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying William wasn't dealing with a rough hand. Life had thrown some serious curveballs his way. But instead of being resilient, he succumbed to his circumstances. He gave up, packed his bags, and headed back to his hometown. But William wasn't the type to quit completely. He still had that spark, that fire that refused to be extinguished. He decided to give New York another shot, but this time with a twist. He vowed to document his misfortunes, to capture his defeats and failures in a journal. And so he did, starting his daily chronicles of woes, which eventually turned into weekly rants filled with self-deprecating humor and defeat. His initial goal, to vent, soon became an obsession, a compulsion. Here's the thing about obsessions. They consume you, control you, dictate your reality. William's obsession was his doom loop. Every time he tallied up his failures, he felt more defeated. And the more defeated he felt, the more he focused on his failures. It was a vicious cycle, and it was eating him alive. So what was a guy to do? Well, he could have ignored his little black book, pretended it didn't exist. But William wasn't that kind of guy. He was a thinker, an analyzer, a guy who liked to understand, dissect, and categorize. Ignoring his failures wasn't an option. It was like trying to ignore a dark spot on the wall. You can turn away, pretend you don't see it, but it's always there in the corner of your eye. Plus, it would be like admitting defeat, and William wasn't a quitter. So he did what any reasonable person would do. He turned his weekly tallies into a game with simple rules. Rule no. 1. No complaining. Rule no. 2. Focus on the positives. It was a tough start, like asking a smoker to quit cold turkey. But William was nothing if not determined. He set goals for himself, ambitiously at first, then gradually, and he kept meticulous records. Did he stick to his rules? Well, sort of. He didn't complain, but he also didn't exactly focus on the positives. His entries were still laced with sarcasm and a hefty dose of self-depreciation. But hey, it was progress. It was like asking a toddler to stop throwing tantrums. You won't expect silence, but a slightly whiny whine is a step up from a full-blown scream. Over time, William's little black book transformed. It wasn't a record of his failures anymore. It became a testament to his struggles, his growth, his resilience. William's transformation wasn't overnight. It was a slow burn, like the steady glow of a candle flame. He started celebrating small victories, like a successful presentation or a simple act of kindness from a stranger. He even started focusing on his strengths, those things he was good at, the stuff that made him unique. You know, I've learned something over the years. We humans, we have this uncanny ability to create problems where there aren't any. Take William, for example. His list of failures wasn't really a problem. I mean, who doesn't have failures? They're part of the human experience. The problem came when William let those failures define him. He gave them power. He built a narrative around them, a story that made him the perpetual loser. But the truth is, it was just a story, his story. And stories, they're malleable. You can rewrite them, reshape them, redefine them. William realized that he'd spent so much time focusing on his negative thoughts that he'd forgotten what it was like to focus on anything else. But once he started shifting his mindset, like a snowball rolling down a hill, picking up speed and power, his life began to change. He started focusing on solutions instead of problems, opportunities instead of obstacles. And guess what? Things started working out for him. I know it sounds cliché, but it's true. When you focus on the good expands. When you focus on the negative, well, it does that too. But remember, it's your story. You have the power to change it. You don't have to be a victim of your circumstances. You don't have to succumb to self-pity. You have a choice. You can choose to rise above, to find humor in the face of adversity, to focus on the positives, to believe in yourself. And I know it's hard. I mean, life can be a real pain in the, well, you know, but the alternative is just not worth it. Why waste your time focusing on the negative, on the things you can't change? Why not shift your focus, embrace the absurdity of life, laugh at yourself, and move forward? Now, don't get me wrong. William didn't become some kind of superhuman optimist overnight. He still had bad days, weeks even. But he had the tools now to deal with them, to overcome them, to grow from them. And that, my friends, is the most important lesson of all. Life is a roller coaster. It's filled with ups and downs, twists and turns. But it's how you respond that matters. It's not about avoiding the downs. It's about how you navigate them, whether you succumb to them or use them as a launch pad for something better. I'll leave you with this. The greatest glory in living lies not in never falling, but in rising every time we fall. So don't be afraid to stumble. Don't be afraid to fail. Fail miserably, spectacularly. Just don't stay down. Pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and start again. Remember, it's your story. So write it well, live it fully, and love it truly. Until next time, take care.